If you've ever struggled with how to start writing an email, this video is for you. I'm going to show you 4 easy ways you could write common everyday emails at work. Pause the video at any time to read the slides more carefully. Here are the 4 basic formulas we need to know for writing common workplace emails. Which formula we choose depends on 2 things. What is the purpose of the message? How would the reader react to the message?
If it's a routine message and the reader is unlikely to feel hurt or rejected or resistant, we use the direct approach. This means we state the purpose of the email near the start of the email. If it's a bad news or sensitive or persuasive message, and the reader is likely to feel hurt, rejected, resistant, or uninterested, we use the indirect approach. This means we lead with information and reasons that build up to the bad news, sensitive, or persuasive message.
So, let's say we're writing to request information from a colleague, and such information is part of our day-to-day work. Should we use the direct or indirect approach?
We use the direct approach. When we're requesting or providing information as part of our day-to-day work, these are considered routine emails. The reader is unlikely to feel hurt, or rejected, or resistant. Therefore, it is safe to use the direct approach. We'll examine the difference between the 2 direct approaches, IDAC and BLUF, later in this video.
What if our boss has asked us to take on a new project, and we have to tell him no, we can't, because we already have too much work to do? Which approach do we use, the direct or indirect approach?
We use the indirect approach, and specifically the BEN plus RC format. Rejecting the boss's request for us to take on more work is considered a sensitive or difficult email. We don't want the boss to think negatively of us, and we don't want to burn any bridges. Instead, we want the boss to understand and empathize with our reason for rejecting the request. It's a difficult email because we need to work a little bit to manage the boss's reaction to our rejection. To do this, we begin our email with a buffer and our explanation to cushion our rejection.
What if we're writing to the boss to propose a new way of doing things to address a current workflow problem? This solution would cause some inconvenience in the beginning, but it would make the workflow a lot more efficient. Which approach do we use, the direct or indirect approach?
We need to use the indirect approach, and specifically the IDA format. In this case, we're proposing a change to current established practices. Most people are resistant to change, especially if it is going to inconvenience them or cost them time and money and incur more work. The reader would need to be persuaded that the change, our suggestion, is worth the inconvenience. Therefore, we need to get the reader's attention and make them see the problem first, so that they are more open to considering our suggestion.
Okay, that's the theory part. Now, let's look at how these 4 formulas are used in some sample emails.
Here's an example. This is James Koo. He's writing to Sarah Lee, the events manager at Pine Tree Resort, to make a reservation for his company's upcoming conference. He's already spoken to Sarah on the phone earlier. Now he needs to follow up with an email. James uses the IDAC formula. Using the IDAC formula, James begins with the introduction. Notice that the introduction does 2 things. It provides background and context for the email. It states the purpose of the email. There are many other ways to begin an email. For example, we could refer to a prior communication or encounter. Or we could express appreciation. Next, James provides relevant details for Sarah. Notice that James has presented the details neatly with a lot of white space so that it's easy for Sarah to read the information. Other ways to improve the readability of our emails are using short sentences and paragraphs, white space, and bullets and tables. Next, James clearly states what he expects Sarah to do after reading his email. Lastly, James closes the email with an appropriate pleasantry.
Remember, we said that we use the IDAC formula if the reader is not someone we're familiar with or someone we're writing to on a daily basis. However, if the reader is someone whom we have been exchanging emails with on an almost daily basis and is someone we're quite familiar with, then we may use the BLUF format. BLUF stands for bottom line up front.
Here's what it looks like. In this scenario, James and Kamini are co-workers. They exchange emails with each other several times every day on work-related matters. Therefore, James feels comfortable stating his request directly without the need for any opening pleasantry. In this case, the email is almost like a chat message on any direct messaging app. Notice though, that although there is no need for an opening pleasantry, James' request is framed politely using structures like would you and could I. Also, he has included a thanks, with an exclamation mark to close the email. All these give the email a positive tone.
Now, what if we are writing to make a complaint, to respond to a complaint, to make a difficult or inconvenient request, or to reject a request? These are considered difficult, bad news, negative or sensitive emails. Because the reader is likely to be upset or inconvenienced by our message, or our work relations with the reader may be affected, it's best to cushion our message with a buffer.
In this case, the indirect approach would be more suitable. This is when we should use the BEN plus RC format. BEN plus RC stands for buffer, explanation, negative news plus redirect, and close.
Here's an example. This is Rashid. His boss, Lisa, has just asked him to lead a new project. Rashid doesn't want to take on the job. He needs to now email Lisa to decline the offer. Following the BEN plus RC formula, this is what Rashid has written. Rashid started the email by referring to Lisa's offer. He thanks Lisa for the offer and informs her that he has thought about it seriously. Rashid has used these two sentences to buffer the rejection later in the email. Expressing appreciation and referring to a prior communication are two ways to buffer sensitive news. Here are some other examples of buffers. Expressing thanks. Beginning on common ground. Expressing sympathy or understanding. Beginning with a neutral statement. The next section in Rashid's email is the explanation. He provides reasons for why he needs to decline Lisa's offer. The explanation is another layer of cushioning to prepare Lisa for the rejection. Then, it is time to state the rejection clearly. Notice Rashid's use of softening language, such as I am sorry, and at this point in time, to soften the impact of the rejection. Rashid then offers Lisa an alternative, or what we call a redirect. This is Rashid's way of maintaining goodwill with Lisa, despite rejecting her offer. It's also his way of showing Lisa that he's still a team player. Lastly, Rashid closes with a pleasantry that expresses goodwill.
Now, what if we need to persuade the reader to take action, such as stay home, do not leave the house? Or to request additional resources, such as to purchase a $30,000 HR system? Or to ask for funding, donation, or sponsorship? If the reader needs to be persuaded into action, we should use the IDA format. IDA stands for attention, interest, desire, action.
Here's an example. This is Natasha. She needs to convince her boss, Mr. S. Velu, to get all their outlets to change the way they have been doing things for the last 5 years. Following the IDA formula, this is what she's written. Natasha starts by drawing Mr. S. Velu's attention to the amount of time spent on such a simple process. Then she piques Mr. S. Velu's interest by emphasizing the benefits of her proposed action. This would interest Mr. S. Velu because as manager, he is concerned about improving work efficiency. Then, Natasha creates desire for trying out her proposal by highlighting how easy and cost-free it is. Lastly, she states the action she wants Mr. S. Velu to take after reading her email.
So, there you have it. 4 easy ways to write common workplace emails.